Is it impossible to mod the new SMD Boss DS-1? Not on my watch. Hello people, Joe from Hello Sailor FX here. Welcome to today's video. In today's video, we tackle the impossible. We modify the SMD version of a Boss DS-1. In today's video, I show you how to add a clip and diode switch that I add to all of my boutique pedal mods. But there's also a twist. I add another mod to give this pedal more muscle. Now, I want you to guess what this stomp switch does. Answers in the comments. Wrong answers only. So this was a real fun one to work out. I can't find anywhere on the internet about modding a DS-1 since they changed over to SMD components. Now I just see a lot of people saying it can't be done or it shouldn't be done, whatever. However, I can't accept that, so I have in fact traced the circuit out. These are the two clip and diodes we want, D4 and 5. Now what really confused me is in every other SMD pedal or anything I've ever modified, which isn't very many, the diodes are separate. On this, I think, and I don't actually know, I am guessing, I think that this little black splodge here is our clip and diodes. I think it's two diodes in one unit. Now, I've checked the continuity from C9. I figured out which C9 was coming from the op amp over here, coming from pin 7 of the op amp, figured out what C9 was, and then traced it along, and I do believe that this component here is in fact D4 and D5 together. So I'm going to go ahead and remove that, and if I ruin the pedal, there'll be no mod. Maybe I'll be able to solder it back on, who knows. Or we'll get to mod it and it'll all be good. And as far as the mod goes, we're going to put them on a switch. We're going to put two sets of diodes on a switch. The center position will be no diodes, as ever. My favorite clipping position, no clipping whatsoever. One side will be asymmetrical silicon, which will be 1N4007s. And then the other side will be symmetrical, and we'll have 1N4148s, which, you know, they're normally in the DS-1. However, I'm going to stack two of them together on each side just to make it a bit different. Well, that was no fun whatsoever to do, so I've removed the diode from this position. However, when I was trying to solder my wire onto the earth pad here, I completely trashed the pad. Of course I did. So I've had to reattach it over here to another earth, and we'll see what that does. I couldn't mod a whole pedal like this. It was a bloody nightmare. Anyway, moving on. Next I'm going to go ahead and attach our diodes to our switch. Can't believe I didn't show this earlier. This is our enclosure. I have in fact drilled a hole for our stomp switch and cut a hole in here, so then we can have our terminals coming through the bottom. This is for the fuzz part of it. However, I'm going to use it now just to rest my switch in there while I'm fitting the diodes to it. There we go, that's our switch now fitted in. We've got an asymmetrical clip and diodes at the top, and underneath we've got our 4148 symmetrical stack clip and diodes at the bottom, and that'll just be operated there. All I need now is, once I get my PCB back installed, is to run the wires previously fitted to the center lugs of this, and we're all good to go. So next we're going to move on to the Monmouth Octave Fuzz. So this is part of the Monmouth, the mini Monmouth this is, and that's going to be sitting just here, and as you can see it's a tight squeeze. I have to try and manipulate these cables out of the way. It's going to sit here. I have to do something about that. I'll have to bend over, otherwise it'll fall atop. Well, next step is going to require me to fit this, so then I can run wires to it from the Monmouth. Now the question is, do I fit this too, so that then we have it all in place ready to run from? And I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to fit this back in there. Then once that's all in place, I can replace the lid, a nice little pin-up girl. And then once that's all in, then I know what space I've got to work around when we're doing our Monmouth Octave Fuzz. That's everything now back inside the enclosure, ready to go. I'm just about to wire up this switch, and I'll also wire up this switch. All that's left to do then is to fit the Monmouth Octave Fuzz. As you can see, I've mounted this on top of half of the box. I've had to destroy the box, and that is because my foot switch was poking through so much that it made the pedal really unstable to solder on. It's a bit of a pain in the backside to work with, so I've just improvised with this box. I'm going to attach these wires, and then we'll start talking about where we're going to attach our Monmouth Octave Fuzz. Both of our switches are now wired up, so this should operate now as a DS-1 completely. So if you were just going to do the clipping mod, this would be the end of your modification. For me though, I'm going to go ahead and move on to adding in my Monmouth Octave Fuzz. Now, we're going to insert this fuzz pedal. See, originally I was going to go here, which would have been perfect. But the height of some of these components just won't allow that. Mainly, well, I suppose if I put that down there, look at this, working it out on camera again, getting Joe, and I put that down there. Actually, we are going to go over here. Perfect. So I'm going to fit that here, and then we'll look at how we're going to wire in. So basically, this is going to go post DS-1. So this is our output jack, and this is our lead go into the output jack. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to snip that lead, and the output of this pedal is going to go to the input of this one, and then the output of my Monmouth Octave Fuzz is going to go to the other end of this white wire, and that will insert this after the DS-1. Next up, I'm going to wire the input and output of our Monmouth Octave Fuzz board, just to make sure that I get that part right. That's our input and output wired in. So we've got here our input from the board coming in, and then that goes out into the input of the pedal. And then on a reverse, the output of the pedal is coming from this pot, going to here, and that is then going to the output jack. Next, I'm just going to wire up the rest of the Monmouth Octave Fuzz, and we should be good to go. When it comes to connecting up our live and our earth for our extra circuit, this could be any circuit really. You could be using something for maybe general guitar gadgets, or anything small enough to fit in here, you can fit in this pedal. Now, I don't actually remember which of these pins is live or neutral because, well, quite simply, I'm not that clever. I don't think I ever knew. So I set my multimeter to ohms, center negative, so I'm going to touch the center pin, and then this pin up here, and that gives us, if that gives us low resistance, which it does in ohms, that I know that that pin there, now if I tilt this up you should be able to see it, I know that that pin there is our negative. Now this pin and this pin are both live. One is for the battery and one is for the actual live. So if we stick our pin on the inside and touch the live terminal, we can see that we get continuity with both of them. However, if I was to push this in a bit further and then lever the fitting inside down, just like it's been plugged in, we see that that one's connected and that one does not connect, and that's because when you push your jack in, it disconnects the battery. So this top one is the one that we're going to be connecting our 9 volts to. So far we've got it all wired up apart from our sweep switch on the Monmouth, mainly because I forgot to bring the pot, and clearly I haven't drilled a hole for it for some reason, so not sure what was going on there in my head. But next I'll be drilling a hole in here to fit our next pot, which will be the sweep for the fuzz, and also figuring out where I'm going to put the LED. So I'm thinking about running wires through the back here and putting the LED for this between her legs right there. Seems semi-appropriate. Then it'll be a case of testing out, but I'm going to have to continue this at home. I'm currently in work, I'm duty today, so this will have to continue at a later date. No longer duty, and I've got all of my tools available to carry on with this pedal. Now, firstly, I made a bit of progress. As you can see, I've added an LED hole and bezel. I went with anodized red just because I can, and I realise it's kind of in the way of the foot switch. However, you know, this foot switch kind of in the way of the foot switch too. I figured we'd be stepping over here and it also fitted in with the aesthetic, and also there weren't that much space to try and massage that in there, so over here it went. I've also drilled a hole for our sweep control on our Octave Fuzz. So these two wires here are going to be for my sweep control. I think I'll wire that in first because we've got one connection that'll go to earth, and then these two will go to the other two lugs of that switch, and that should be the underside of this complete with any luck. And bearing in mind, if we remember back way back when, the actual diode that I removed from this, or the diode pair, was one unit, which I've never seen before because I don't do SMD. So I don't know if I've got the right thing, and I don't know if I've ruined this pedal and if it'll work. So that should be fun. We'll see if I fall flat on my face. I'll post this video anyway, even if I do. And once I've got that fitted, I can't really get inside here, so I'm going to have to remove the screws, take this off. There isn't much wire because I've really wired it in. I'm going to have to like manipulate it round, and we'll fit an LED into the bottom there. That's our sweep pot now fitted. This wire here will go to lug 2, which is the center, and this wire here will go to lug 3, which is this top one, and then the bottom lug will attach to ground. Now what I didn't foresee was the size of this pot, because I haven't got any of these smaller ones. Should have really checked that first. Is in the way of me running the wires down outside of the enclosure like I normally like to. So I've had to sort of bunch them in the middle. I've disconnected this one here so we can drop the foot switch off to wire in the LED in a sec. But now if I wire them in, I'll run them down the centre instead of going round the outside. Now I know some people really don't care how they look inside these pedals and stuff, but that matters to me. It matters a lot. It needs to have some nice cable ties in there holding everything together for me to feel sane. Right, next I'm going to wire in these two wires and the earth wire. That is our sweep pot fully wired up now. I've also attached an extra earth wire from lug 1 down to the center position of our 3-pole double throw switch, and that is the earth for the LED. Now I probably should have fitted the resistor, the current drop resistor for the LED on this side rather than inside the lid, if you like, but whatever, I'll fit it in there, it doesn't matter. The question is, how bright should I make it? Now, next step is to take the lid off, wire in the LED, and then put the lid back on. And then lastly, which I'll probably forget to do, is attach this output wire here, otherwise nothing is going to work. And that just attaches to the lug down here on the 3-pole double throw switch. As you can see here, I've got my LED in place. There's a small bit of glue holding it in. Now I could have removed all of this foam, actually should have removed all of this foam, but I haven't. It was in the way and I didn't want to mess about while the enclosure's together. What I will do is I will glue my current limiting my current limiting resistor. I will glue to the top of this, just because then I can use a super size one, and I'll run it straight to the earth here, and I run it from the earth with a wire up to this, or maybe it'll just fit straight there. There doesn't seem to be anything in its way actually, so I'll just run it straight there from there, so it's a solid connection going to the earth. And then this live will have a wire that comes inside, back through here, inside here, and it'll attach to the main live of the circuit. Do I really need a silly size carbon comp resistor as a current drop resistor for my LED? Yes I do. So that is our LED now fully wired in, and the last thing to do is to wire in our output from the 3-pole double throw switch, which will then go to the output of the whole pedal right here. So when this switch is engaged, it'll send signal through this lug on this side here to this circuit. Octave Fuzz sends it back to this lug here, and then comes to the lug we're about to solder, and then to the output jack. Sounds simple. Our final wire is now in place, and I've also took the liberty of adding 1 or 2 purple cable ties in there. Glyn, if you're watching, my father-in-law, he absolutely hates me putting all these cable ties in here. He's like, 1 or 2 will do. You don't need to put all of them in there. But you know what? I just like how it looks, so go figure. Also, I'd like to ask now, for anyone who's still watching, what colour cable ties would you prefer me to use? At the minute I've got a load of purple ones because, you know, engineering in the Navy is purple. So engineers' badges used to be purple and all that jazz. So I like a bit of purple. I'm also, on the same note, swapping back to using the pink silicone wire that you see here. All my builds will come with pink silicone wiring. And why is that? That is simply because if you open up a Type 23 frigate control panel or Type 42 control panel, or all the older class of military ships that I've served on for years, all of the electronics are wired in with pink wire, which is why the electricians are called pinkies. So I like to just put it in there just because it reminds me of being on board. Fun fact. Yeah, anyway, so next step, if I remove it from my high-tech hole for this, next step will be to tighten down on these, add me spring back in place. I need to put some epoxy on the LED. I like to make it look like a a screen over the top using epoxy, and then we're good to go. It'll be a sound test. Really, I should have sound tested it before putting all these cable ties in. I fell foul of that in the past where I've had to snip them all out to trace some wires, but well, we'll see. We did indeed hit a hurdle. Of course we did. Nothing ever works first time. No plan ever survives first contact with the enemy. Say it nearly every build. Now, I was getting no signal from my Octave Fuzz, which is weird. I had to break out my DIY high-tech audio probe. Now, I use this almost every single pedal that doesn't work, or basically every single pedal that I'm trying to fault find on. If you want to learn how to make an audio probe yourself, I'll post the link to the video above. Now, all it is when I play signal through my pedal, this attaches to your amplifier, and then wherever I touch this tip on the pedal, it will amplify that part of the pedal. So I basically just started at the input. It gave me signal. I could hear the guitar playing. I followed it round through the circuit all the way to this. Now let's see if we can get in there. To this tiny cap here, which is the output cap. It's a 1NF cap, and I'm getting signal this side of it, but I'm not getting signal this side of it. Now that could be two things. It could be that it's grounded out, or it could be that it is, you know, there's some sort of issue there. What I'm going to do is I'm going to clip that cap out. I'm going to solder to this position here something ridiculously big for this enclosure. Of course I am. And I'm going to run that straight to this pot. So I'll cut that wire out. We'll get rid of that. And I'll cut this part of the board out. And I'll run it straight from this point here where I know I'm getting signal through an output cap. Probably one that looks a bit better. And I don't know what I've got. Maybe a TCC, we don't know. Anyway, we'll have a look at that. I'll run it through a cap and straight to that pot. So that's our tiny cap removed and a silly size one now in its place. Bigger is always better, so therefore that mistake or that defect with that cap made the pedal better. All's well that ends well. Now the pedal's all wired up, the last thing to do is to add the epoxy resin to the LED. Now I really like this stuff. I buy it from Amazon. I find that it cures real fast and it's clear. It gives a nice finish. I've tried hundreds of them, believe it or not. I'll put a link to it in the description below if I remember, and if I don't, please write in a comment and I will do. What I like to do is I put it onto plastic or some sort of packaging because it makes it dry quicker. I get it so then it's just at the point where it's almost going to dry, and then using well, I should really get myself a proper tool for this, but I use the end of a screwdriver. I slowly drip it on top of the LED, and that makes it form a kind of screen over the top. Now, the first couple of these, you're bound to get it everywhere. Fine, whatever. But after a while, you get your eye in of how much glue you can, how much epoxy you can put in before it overspills. Now, I've had a lot of people say, well, why'd you fit epoxy? Because, you know, you can just put like the LED poking through or whatever, because then you won't have the hassle of, if the LED breaks, you've got to pull it out and replace the epoxy or whatever. The LED pops straight out the bottom if you need it to. It's secure enough that it stays in place. And this actually, I think, looks really good. And it's something that no one else does, and I do, so I'm going to keep doing that. And I would like to know in the comments what you think of me using epoxy over my LEDs instead of using the standard like LED bezel and whatnot. That is our pedal fully ready to go. LED fitted, both circuits up and running, SMD Boss DS-1 modified. That's our pedal mod complete. Next will be the sound sample, but before that, if you've got any value from this video, can I please ask that you press the share button below and then copy link. You don't have to share the link, just please press share, copy link. That'll signal to YouTube that my video is giving value to people, and they'll share it to other people, which then will help my channel grow. Thank you so much, and now let's go.